Welcome to another episode of Off the Dribble, presented and powered by the Warner Robins All Stars. I want to appreciate and thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We got another big show for you. Before I introduce the team, I just want to let you guys know if you missed any of the episodes, you can go out to the Warner Robins All Stars YouTube page. All the episodes are out there laid out for you, ready for you to view, play back, get some information, and move forward on that. So, of course, I'm Coach KP. Joining me, Coach Tat.
What up?
Coach Charles G, the producer extraordinaire. Hey, so, like I said, we got a big show for you today. We got the head coach of the Northside varsity women's team, Coach Ashleigh Fox, and we got a superstar player that played for Coach Fox, Kalia Little. So, welcome to the show, ladies.
Hello.
So, I want to make sure I say it right. You guys are the Lady Eagles, correct?
Yes.
All right. So, no, I won't say
it. Don't do
it. Hey, we appreciate you guys joining us on the show. I did a little bit of research on y'all, and it's a lot of basketball background and history and things that you guys are going to be able to share. And as far as the women's game goes, Coach, I'm gonna start with you. So you've been coaching for 7 years, head coach for 4 years. You got your head coaching opportunity over at Northside, correct?
Right.
Before that, you was out at Jones County?
Yes, I was.
Okay. All right. And then, of course, you played college ball at Georgia College?
Yes.
And then, like I told you, we found a tidbit way back in 2007. Coach was Defensive Player of the Year at Parkview High School.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So does any of that defense roll over? Is that your calling card as far as with your team?
Absolutely. Kalia can attest to defense first. We can't get stops. We're not winning games.
Right. Okay. And then, like I said, we got Kalia Little. I looked up your stats, and I did my research on you, and I was like, wow. So I remember seeing you play as a freshman, right? And then even as you playing as a freshman, you stood out, right? You were all over the place. You were a jitterbug. You were just making it happen on both ends of the court, right? So I'm going to read some of your accomplishments. 1,000-point scorer in high school, 4-year varsity starter, first team All-Region 2018, co-player of the year, offensive player of the year 2019. So that's kind of your high school stuff, as well as both of you all won a regional championship in 2017.
Yeah.
Right. And then, Kalia, when you went to college, you didn't pump the brakes at all, right? So and one more point as far as your high school career, your senior year averaged 19 points, 3 assists, and 3 steals.
That's correct.
Okay. And then when you got to college, you started 14 to 28 games, averaged 11 points a game. Season high was 30 points. Second in scoring and blocks on the team, which I'm trying to figure out the blocks piece. Maybe quick on your toes.
Yeah.
As well as first team All Sun Conference, first Sun Conference All Tournament team, and then the TSC Freshman of the Year. I get it all right?
Okay.
All right. So, like I said, it seemed like you didn't miss a beat leaving high school going into your freshman year at college. Can you kind of just explain to us what your mindset was going from high school to college?
Well, I kind of knew I was a known player, so I had to just work, really. And college ain't really easy, so I had to put in extra work. I just kept competing.
Right. There you go. Now, Coach, I'm going to throw it back to you. What kind of got you started in your coaching career? If you can kind of just give us your mindset. When did you know you wanted to be a coach and work with young ladies and try to take them to the next level?
Honestly, I would say even back in high school, we had camps that we hosted at Parkview, summer camps, youth camps, and even at my middle school that I went to that led into Parkview High School. I was able to actually mentor and coach kids through those camps. And so I really enjoyed sharing my knowledge of the game and being able to demonstrate, and share my passion for basketball. So I think even as early as high school, I thought, okay, this is something that I could see myself doing.
Right. Okay. So this next question, Coach, is the hottest topic of the week. It's the shot clock.
Hmm.
So as far as we had some coaches roundtable on yesterday with some guy coaches, but I want to kind of get your take on how the shot clock is going to be instrumental in the game of basketball, especially on the women's side at the high
Right.
school level.
Hmm. I'm definitely in favor of it. Aside from the obvious, it helps players to prepare for the next level if that's what their goals are. But as far as the pace of the game, I think it's going to be a lot more interesting and entertaining, especially for women, because it can tend to be a slower paced game. Um, so I feel like it'll definitely benefit that aspect. And as far as how we like to play at Northside, we play fast paced. So we're pressing, playing man to man. So I think that would help us too, essentially.
So, Khalil, I'm gonna ask you as far as leaving high school and making that transition, and then playing with a shot clock. How did that? Was that an easy transition, or?
No, it was pretty difficult. It kind of just taught me how to be more organized, when to do this and when not to do that. So it is very needed for high school to prepare them for the next level because I wasn't prepared. I just had to get used to it, really.
Right. So was that what was the biggest part to get used to? So now, were you playing point? Are you playing point in college or?
I played the 1 and the 3, but mostly I started at the 3, so I ain't really.
Okay. And I was just curious to see as far as, if you had to get the team into sets and all of those type of things, what's kind of your mindset when you know that clock's ticking down? Where it may not necessarily, you typically going to get a shot off within that time anyway, but just to know that there's a clock up there now, does that put any added pressure on you?
Kind of. With us, it was, we didn't even really have the full 30 seconds because most of the time they're going to press you. So it was all about how to get the best shot out of the shot clock. When to take the best shot, when not to take the shot. It really it became mental after a while, but at first it was pretty hard for me to get used.
Right, just took some time to get used to.
Because you don't want to shoot too early and you can't shoot too late. So it was a patience thing. Work for the best shot.
Okay.
All right, Khalil, question. How did Coach Fox prepare you for the college level?
The work ethic, more than likely. I mean, most importantly, the way she taught defense to us was very needed because most teams just want to fight offense. But to play for Coach Fox, you need to know how to play defense. So taking that along and made me become a way better defender than what I was because I knew I had to play defense in order to do this and in order to do that. It ain't all about just scoring.
All right, Coach Fox. I know you got a stellar 9th grade group coming in this year. With Khalil speaking basically about the defense, what are some of the things that you are willing to stress to that younger group that's coming in this year?
They had the convenience of being able to play fast paced a lot, and it's because they had an eye for the ball and knack for finding the ball, anticipating steals, so on and so forth. And so I think their biggest thing is going to be adjusting to the level of play, because essentially they've had an easier route. And those girls have been playing together, so they understand how to play off of each other. It's going to be more so the pace of the game, them understanding you can't go for a steal every time. You got to be patient, keep your man in front of you. And then obviously the defense will translate into offense. So I think defensively that's a big thing. And then also they're going to have to learn how to set up half-court offenses because they get a lot of their points off transition buckets. So that's going to be a big deal for us going forward.
Hey, Coach Fox. What how do you plan to move forward and prepare your team for the shot clock? And I know Northside got a new gym as well. Does it have a shot clock already in it as well?
Originally, it didn't. So we've ordered 2, and I think they're still considering where to place them. I'm pretty sure GHSA is going to mandate that they go on the goals. I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. So they hadn't put them up yet, but yeah, we've got shot clocks ready to go. As far as preparing the team for it, I think you can always set up situations in practice, whether it's full court or half court, understanding we want to get the ball up the court in this amount of time so that we have more time to, swing the ball around, to work for this shot or that shot, so on and so forth. So just making sure that they're mindful of the time constraint and, still wanting to look for a good shot or even better shot.
Okay. So what are some of the challenges you have that you've seen with upcoming freshmen and things like that, as far as their adjustment piece? What piece of advice could you give those girls as they come into your program?
Really to just understand their strengths and weaknesses. So essentially, obviously, you want them to work towards being better, whether that's their offensive game, defensive game. But also understanding, like I said, the pace of the game is a lot different. You're not just playing against girls in your grade anymore. You're playing against girls who are 2-3 years older than you, sometimes girls who are getting ready to go to the next level and play college ball. So always wanting to be hungry and get better, because essentially you can always improve. So definitely that would be it.
Gotcha.
Because let me ask you about your program. As far as when you came in, what were some of the things you kind of had or brought with you from your previous coaching situation, or you playing at high school or in college? What were some of the things that you wanted to come in and kind of implement as far as making it your team?
I've always sought out to make it a family-oriented environment. So it's ideal to have it be, tight-knit. Obviously, not everybody's going to get along all the time, but understanding, okay, we all have these common goals, and we want to work towards those goals together. So as far as philosophy, understanding everybody's going to have to sacrifice something for the common good of the group. More specifically, like basketball fundamentals, I feel like have gone by the wayside sometimes. So making sure the girls understand, if you're fundamentally sound, then everything else will fall into place. You can work on your game offensively. Everything comes together if you're fundamentally sound, whether it's defense, offense.
So we've interviewed some other coaches as well, and that's one of the things that keeps coming back up is the fundamental aspect of it. So you really you'll break things down and you incorporate time within your practices to kind of reiterate and keep hitting those fundamental aspects.
Absolutely. When I draw out my practice plan, we'll have a lot of full court drills in the beginning, but all of those drills at some point hit on the fundamentals that we want to make sure become habit for game situations. We established the Lady Eagles Hoops Academy. So I've extended invitations to middle school players and athletes to come for a 3-day summer camp. And when we have that camp, we go through team defensive principles. So whether it's man-to-man or understanding zone principles and playing your area, we go through all that. Ball handling, form shooting, essentially how to pivot, because some girls come up to the 9th grade level and don't understand square up to the basket, establish a pivot foot. So that's very important. It's a significant part of the game that some feeder programs and girls coming up don't necessarily get before they come to me.
So, Coach, that's amazing. I think that's the first time we've heard that somebody actually has that program or that type of program established. So, is that for the girls who's coming into your program, or is that how does that determine who can come to that?
Well, I extended it when I first established it. Was it summer 2017? We extended it to everybody in the county. Now, obviously, that's a little tricky. You don't want people to think you're trying to recruit their players.
All right.
So I never did end up getting too many girls from outside our feeder programs. So it's been mostly Thompson Middle School girls, Northside Middle School girls. I have had a few, I think they were at Fagan Mill, but I think that's pretty much been it. One ended up at Warner Robins High School.
Right. So have you seen the benefits of it?
Oh, absolutely. Because the past couple years, I've had girls who come in and understand, okay, when we play man-to-man defense, Coach Fox doesn't want us to follow our man through the lane all the way to the other side of the floor. I'm stopping in the lane so I can be in help side defense. I'm communicating with my teammates. I got help. So that's been a big improvement. Seeing, through the years that I've been at Northside, but then also just that face-to-face interaction. And them knowing, Coach is hard-nosed. She's not going to let me get away with this. So when I get up there, I understand what she expects, sort of thing.
Yeah. But that's great that you have even a relationship with the feeder programs, so you can already start that process. Khalil, let me ask you. Coach Fox talked about the fundamental aspect. Did you realize, or did it help you going to college and understanding being fundamentally sound was probably more important than being extra flashy as a player?
Yeah, I did learn that. They helped out a lot going to college, especially the man defense and all that. How you don't have to follow your players. That came in handy, and I had already learned in high school, so it wasn't so hard to adjust to it in college. But it was players that didn't learn it, and it was very hard for them to adjust to it once we got to college. So it helped out a lot.
Right. So before I throw it to Coach Tatno, I have to go back to this point. How did you lead or second on the team in block shots?
I told you timing.
That girl can get up too, though. Now she can get up.
So that's another reason. I guess most people underestimate that.
Right. All right. There you go, Coach Tat.
Coach, what is I know we just started using basketballs. What are some of the preparations and the precautions that you are taking during this whole COVID-19 thing?
To be completely honest, I almost would have rather than said that we can't, because it's still really limited. Obviously, you want the girls to be able to get in some reps, so that's basically what we've been focused on, just them getting reps in ball handling and shooting. But I have them come in, wipe their hands off before we get started. They each have their own basketball. They don't have to share a basketball. Using hand sanitizer intermittently, all those things, and making sure everything's sanitized and we're not interacting too closely.
Right.
Hey, Coach, I know you mentioned the fundamentals parts of kids coming into the program, and they need to continue to work on it. I know we do have a few AAU programs out there. Do you find that the kids that are playing during the summer come in a little bit better prepared, or how is that for you? What has been your experience with that thus far?
For the most part, I do think it helps with their consistency. So you got most teams ending their season late February, and then I don't get them again until school ends at the end of May, beginning of June.
Mm-hmm.
And so those couple months in between, you're hoping either they're playing a second sport or somebody's got them in the gym working on, their game. So those who don't play a second sport or a spring sport, they've been able to use AAU as a means to stay in shape, work on their game. Then going into June, I do see some improvements from those players who play AAU because, they're getting those reps. They're being put in situations that otherwise they wouldn't have, experienced. So I definitely think they come in a little bit more prepared. And then their mindset too is on basketball as opposed to something else.
Gotcha. And Caleb, how was your travel ball experience and your recruitment experience? Kind of talk to that a little bit, if you could.
So I did play AAU for 4 years, and I didn't start playing basketball until 7th grade. So I know it's a little late compared to some other folks. So I played 8th grade middle school basketball, and then I played 9th grade after ninth grade is when I really decided that's something that I wanted to, do in the future, play basketball at the college level. So my parents signed me up for AAU. I went to a couple of different tryouts, and we decided to go with this team where I played with girls from Mill Creek. I played with girls from Peachtree Ridge. I played with girls from Collins Hill, Flowery Branch, North Gwinnett. So all over the Gwinnett area, even a little bit further up north. And we had some really good talent on that team. So it made me better just by playing with those girls. I don't know if y'all have heard the name Portia Porter. She played JUCO ball, ended up transferring to Mississippi State. She did really well at Mississippi State. But just playing with her and knowing to expect quick passes and she was going to get you the ball and, that sort of thing. When you play with players who are just as talented as you or more talented, then it helps you to become a better athlete, better player. So it definitely helped me to become better as far as working on my offensive skill set. Because when I saw her do certain things, I'm like, dang, I want to be able to do that. Let me go get in the gym and work on my ball handling or shoot some more, So it definitely pushed me and motivated me to want to be a better player. As far as recruiting goes, it is a good way to be seen because you've got, certain recruiters who show up to different tournaments here and there. But you also have to be aware that some tournaments don't have that available. So there are some tournaments that you can sign up for. They don't have recruiters and scouts coming to see the girls. So I would say the AAU circuit has been a little bit diluted as far as like how many events there are and the ones that are actually really beneficial for players. Because there are so many more players actually playing travel ball in AAU now, for sure.
And Khalil, I know, with you coming through, starting for 4 years at Northside, and you created a fan base as well with the older and the younger girls, watching you play throughout the years. What are some of the things that you want to tell the younger generation of girls that are coming up? How you prepared yourself to get to the next level, to start 4 years at the high school level.
The first thing I have to say to them is just depends on your work ethic. A lot of people have talents, but they don't want to put in the work to get better. And in high school, that can go a long way because you're gonna run into a lot of tough high schoolers. And secondly, some be stuck up in what people got to say, and they don't like this person. Basketball mental, it don't matter who you're around. If you want to go out there and play, you're gonna play. And that's how I made it through high school. It was kind of hard with the coach transition because at first I had Coach Wilson, then Coach Fox, but I had to learn. And all got the same goals. In order to get to the same goal, you got to get on the same page. That's how you get through life, really. So just keep pushing, just keep fighting. If you really love it, don't give up on it.
Good answer.
So, Khalil, did I say your name right? Khalil?
Yeah, you said it right.
Khalil. So, did your role change from high school to college? And if it did, what did that process look like for you?
In a way, it changed, but in a way, it didn't. When I first got to college, I really wasn't feeling it. I didn't feel important enough to the team, and everything that I was going through, it was mental. So I got to the point where I just sat down and I talked to my coach, and we kind of just laid everything out on the table. And this was the first semester. That's when I wasn't starting. I wasn't really getting enough playing time, but I was working hard at practice. So in my eyes, it was like, what's going on? So I talked to the coach, and then the second semester, that's when I starting for the rest of the season. And we went on I think we lost like 3 games the whole second half of the season. So in a way, my role didn't change because I was still an important factor. It just took me a while to realize how much I really needed them.
Gotcha.
So let me real quick, Charles. I don't know if we got a follow up or not, but maybe I left that out during the intro. But your freshman year, y'all went 22-7 and 15-3 in conference play.
The only games we lost the whole second half of the season was some 3 conference games. And one of them was the game to go to the championship. At first, we had only lost 2 games.
Well, Coach, let me ask you this about intangibles. What are some of the intangibles you look for when in your players as far as putting players on the team and whatnot?
Work ethic is definitely big, and I don't think the girls understand how important that is. Because for me, as long as you're putting forth 100%, you're gonna find some playing time. I'm gonna find somewhere for you to contribute to the team as long as I know you're giving 100%. Aside from that, willingness to sacrifice. So everybody on the varsity team has roles. Not everybody's gonna be handling the ball. Not everybody is gonna be the go-to scorer. Not everybody is gonna be that dominant rebounder. So understanding the role that you have and being willing to sacrifice some of the spotlight or some of the recognition by doing, those little things that really matter in the whole scheme. Also, competitiveness. Kalia is one of the toughest competitors I've ever coached, and that's something that you don't find in everybody. So if you see a girls basketball player who's hard nosed, willing to dive on the floor, getting frustrated that they're not performing well, that tells you they're a big competitor, and you can do a lot with that. You can definitely do a lot with that.
Oh, so you talked about roles. What part in the season is that before the season starts, as the season goes on? I'm sure it's constant communication, but how do you go about having that conversation to let the girls know what their role is and letting them, and I'm assuming, right? But that you also tell them, okay, as a freshman, this may be your role, but it may increase as you become a sophomore, junior, and a senior.
Right. So if they're coming into my program, hopefully in camps and practices in the summer, we're figuring things out as far as what they do well, what they don't do well, and we communicate that. We try to give feedback as much as possible. And then essentially when you get to October, we have tryouts. We have a rubric for evaluation. In past years, it's been more mental, and we've discussed it verbally between coaching members. But just this past year, we actually did come up with a tangible sheet, offensive things, defensive things, those intangibles. And so after we evaluate the players during tryouts, we, communicate with them, these are the strengths and the weaknesses that we saw, that we observed. So this is what you need to work on going forward, or this is really good. Make sure you keep doing that. My seniors understand that their leadership abilities, whether it's vocal or just with how hard they go on the court, it needs to be top notch. And so they understand with the feedback we give them and the evaluations that we do, okay, this is what I'm not good at, what I'm good at. This is what coach expects me to work on and contribute to the team.
All right. So one other question, Coach, before I throw it to Coach Charles. As far as you guys don't have a freshman team, correct?
No, we don't.
Okay. Do you find that as a handicap, so to speak, as far as developing a program?
A lot obviously has to do with our numbers. So we'd like to be able to have higher numbers and establish a ninth grade team, but I don't think it hinders us in any way. Usually my JV teams are made up mostly of ninth graders, and in the past I have been able to schedule at least a couple of ninth grade games so that those girls who may not be getting as much reps as the 10th graders do get that, in-game experience. I wouldn't say it's hindered us too much, no.
Right. Well, I mean, that's great as well. That you'll have a workaround and able to get those scrimmages in so they can still get some burn. So.
Right.
Coach Charles?
So, Coach, moving into this upcoming basketball season, what does your team look like? Like, what are your those big games, or who is that big game for you guys as well?
Well, we lost. We lost 6 seniors.
Oh wow!
4 of which were starters. So I wouldn't say necessarily rebuilding, because I've got plenty of returners who have contributed. But I'm going to have to do more teaching. They're still getting used to my expectations, so on and so forth. Games to look forward to. Obviously, that rivalry, crosstown rivalry with Warner Robins is always close, always competitive. The girls like really get into it because a lot of them know each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've grown up around each other. They play AAU together, whatever the case may be. So it really becomes a competitive thing where, you know, we want bragging rights for sure. We've got veterans on the schedule. Last year we had them on the schedule. This year we got them back on the schedule, so that'll be a good matchup again. Even Hoko, because they've had some young girls who've been working on their game, and they've developed and improved a good bit too.
Coach, real quick, I gotta ask you this. So, with you guys being in the new gym, is that gonna change that rivalry? You think, as far as, I mean, because you go to a Northside Warner Robins game at either gym last year, right? And everybody's in the gym, it's packed
Right.
in there. You got to get there extra early to get in the game. So they got to get there extra early to get into the boys' games. So the girls' games is packed out, which
Right.
you know it should be. But do you think that's going to change it?
I don't think so. Obviously, we used to get up to capacity really quickly. So yeah, you'd have to line up quick. My parents are still in Gwinnett, so I tell them, you know, you might want to get here about 10 o'clock, because I think at one point we were doing 1 o'clock varsity games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling them to get in town early for those. But I think it'll be just the same. You won't have the same echo. You won't have the same body heat. Like, it'll be good air conditioning, room to breathe. So I think the atmosphere might change a little bit, but as far as the rivalry and competitiveness, I think it's definitely still going to be present for sure.
So, hey, Coach Ted and Khalil, you guys probably can answer this question. Could you guys, and Coach Fox, could you guys kind of speak to the tradition and the history of the rivalry between Warner Robins and Northside for the viewers who may not be from the Middle Georgia area?
Oh man, that runs deep, equally deep for me. Which, you know, I born and raised knew nothing else but Warner Robins. So I mean, it's a real deep rivalry. I would say it's the best rivalry in the state of Georgia. I mean, I know people say that Ulster Lowndes and that's a good rivalry also. But Warner Robins and Northside is by far, I think, the best and biggest rivalry in the whole state of Georgia.
So, Khalil, can you kind of speak to, from your experience, your high school years, going back, what that was like for you?
Yeah. Northside Warner Robin games were the games you live for, practice for, everything. Then this is one of the biggest rivalries I ever seen. So
Gotcha.
I miss it more than
Okay. Coach Fox?
Yeah, definitely. I learned pretty quickly. They told me before I had that first matchup what it was going to be like. They're like, Fox, get ready. I'm like, oh shoot, what am I getting ready for? You know, so it lived up to the hype. It definitely lived up to the hype.
Okay. Yeah, Khalil, we might have to get an alumni game going for you so you can relive some of the moments. So, no.
Yeah, we were disappointed we didn't get to host that this year. Because usually we do it in April or May.
Yeah.
We're real disappointed we didn't get to do that alumni event.
Gotcha.
Coach, walk us through your first year as a head coach. What did you expect? And you know, how did you feel? You know, getting the job and coming in and, you know, trying to put your imprint on the program and, you know, all of that stuff.
Going into it, I knew that there were a bunch of different pieces and moving parts that I would have to essentially oversee or manipulate. So first thing was coaching staff, because I didn't have a coaching staff of my own. I had to piece one together. And so y'all may know Anthony Sapp, who's been in the community for a good while. He helped at Northside Middle, so he knows the community. He's well versed in, the Northside Warner Robins rivalry. He did coach AAU at one time, so he knows basketball and he knows the community. I also had Melissa Ring, who has 20 plus years experience coaching. She coached high school ball, she coached in Mississippi State, she coached at UTEP, and I learned from her every single day. Just this past year, or last January, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so she's been going through treatment, and so she hadn't been as hands-on as of late, but she's still been an integral part to our program. As far as what to expect, I've seen just from spectators' view of what a transition in coaching can look like. So I knew I was going to have a battle in front of me as far as getting those girls to understand, well, this is the way that y'all have been doing things, but it's not going to be that way going forward. Coach Wilson did a great job with the girls that I had, returners that she had coached. She was big on defense as well, because even when I was at Jones County playing Northside, they'd give you a hard time on that defensive end of the court. So she did a good job of instilling that already. But there were certain things as far as fundamentals that I expected that I had to reiterate and make sure they understood. No, we're going to play this way. So I did have some pushback in that aspect. Now, I had a really talented team that my first year. I had Alexia Galloway. She ended up going to Bruton Parker. I had Tamia Sapp, who graduated that next year. I had Jalea Lynch, who was, automatic shooter. Like, that was our go-to right there. We were trying to find her. So I had a talented squad. We even were able to play 1-3-1 because we were so lengthy. But part of the reason we didn't do better than we did that year, because we were region champs, part of the reason we didn't do even better and go further in the state tournament is because we weren't all on the same page. And so even going into my 5th year, I'm figuring out ways to make sure, my girls are all on the same page, and we understand we got the common goal, whether that's region championship, state championship, whatever the case may be. So like I said, that kind of, as a first year coach, I was trying to figure out, how to motivate these girls, how to get them to buy in, because essentially this what you want is for all your players to buy into what you're trying to do.
Right.
Coach, what did you find the most difficult that first year? As far as that transition, was it on the court, off the court? I know you mentioned as far as trying to put a staff together, but what was one thing that you can kind of give coaches that's up and coming kind of some advice on if they're getting into that type of position for the first time?
I would definitely say off the court, because if you've got experience with basketball, X's and O's, you're going to be able to figure out and study what you need to study. But definitely understanding why you're there. So I have a passion for basketball. I like sharing my knowledge, but essentially I'm a role model for the girls. I had to understand, they watch what I'm doing and they feed off of that. And I got to make sure they understand I have their best interest at heart. And we're all wanting the same thing, to perform well and to have success. And so I would say understand why you're in it and make sure that your girls know that you're there for them and, that you would do anything to make sure that they're successful.
Gotcha.
And did you have any type of conversations with the parents, maybe with some of the returning players or whatever the case would be, as they're trying to, figure out who you are and how you're going to help their girls?
Mm-hmm. So before that school year ended, when I first got hired, I had a meeting with the players so that they could see my face and we could talk a little bit about what summer was going to look like. And so I did meet the players first. I had interactions with parents in June because, I got to make sure I communicate with them as far as where we're going, what we're doing. But I always do host a parent meeting at the beginning of the season so that we can take care of whatever paperwork or, communicate expectations, scheduling, all that sort of thing. So I do try to make sure I communicate consistently with parents. I do want them to see my face, you know. So I think all of that is definitely important to have.
So, Coach, I do have a question. You know, we see it a lot with young athletes chasing exposure and things like that. Um, how is that relevant in with your girls that you're coaching in the high school as far as them chasing exposure and trying to get those write ups and things like that? And how do you combat those things?
I think I haven't had so many girls looking for that as of late. I think this is the first year I hadn't sent somebody on scholarship to play college ball. And sometimes you have those groups of girls who aren't necessarily looking for that. You know, they're playing because they enjoy the game. Their friends play. You know, they do enjoy competition. But as of late, I hadn't had that issue so much. I do think that eventually I may have to encounter that, but no, I haven't had that issue.
Okay. So, man, Kalia. So, how was your when you were coming up through the ranks, middle school, high school? So, how was that exposure piece for you? Was it something that you worried about, or was it something it just you was that dog and it just came to you, or how was that for you?
I won't say I was just that dog, but I don't know. I don't know. It's just I went into high school kind of with the competitive mindset. I want to shine, so I know I got to work to shine. But it wasn't no, I'm trying to knock you down while I'm shining. So it never really I can't say exposure means a lot to me, but it does motivate me, in a way.
Okay. Huh. So I guess the reason I was asking that question because it seems that exposure piece is it's very high on the boys' side. So where they're watching social media.
I agree with you on that one. It's a little bit higher on their side.
It's a little bit higher. Okay. All right. So just trying to get a feel for that on the girl side. And I know as you get through and you're gonna have certain girls who are looking for that exposure and who like I gotta get it. I definitely think it's gonna be something that you're gonna encounter sooner here pretty soon as well, Coach Fox. You got a pretty talented group coming up, so
Absolutely.
Leah, I got two questions for you. Did you play travel ball? You play AAU?
I played for a couple of years, but not. I think I stopped my 9th grade year.
Okay, all right. And then this question, as far as what is the biggest misconception between women's basketball and men's basketball?
What you mean?
As far as okay, women don't play as hard as men because women are coming through the lane dunking and doing this and doing that. But as far as I watch women's games, right, and it's for the sets that they run, they're more disciplined in that aspect, and they play hard. They play hard. If you go to a women's game, they hitting the floor, they bouncing right back up. They play extremely hard. So what would you want to tell someone that says the women's game isn't as competitive or as effective as the men's game?
I just always tell them like we can play 1-on-1. That's always my answer. If you think you can always be the girl, just let play. I can't down to us like that because some of us are very talented and dedicated. So sometimes it kind of messes with me when folks say that about females when we know some of us are more talented than a lot of guys out here. So
yeah.
I don't like people say stuff like that. So if they want to say it, we can just play for it. After that, they won't have the same mindset no more.
There you go. Coach Fox, I'll ask you that same question.
I definitely think the misconception is the women's game is not as entertaining because you don't see the dunks or the alley-oops or whatever. But like you said, the girls' game is usually more fundamentally sound, more disciplined. I've had so many girls willing to sacrifice their bodies to dive on the floor and hop right back up. I don't know if y'all remember Quadacia Dunham. She's about 4'10", but she plays like she's 6 foot, like heart out of this world. And not that you don't have boys that play that way, but it's something about seeing girls willing to be that competitive and just lay it all out there, you know?
Oh yeah.
So I think that's definitely the biggest misconception.
Yeah. I think girls play. I think girls play harder, and it's just a matter of it's almost their will. I think because, like I said, they'll hit the ground hard and pop right back up, and they hit the ground like ooh, and then they right back up and excited about it. So yeah, definitely. Yeah. It does look like we have a question from one of the viewers, Coach Charles.
Yep. So Bruce Thompson says, do you feel it is the coach's responsibility to help kids get to the next level? So
That's my question.
you can take it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just asking.
Yeah. So we'll start with Coach Fox, but yeah, Leo, we'll definitely come back to you as well. See how you got there.
Okay, so I definitely think the coach has a responsibility to make sure the players understand what it takes to get to the next level. So as far as the work aspect and making sure that you're improving every day, making sure that your grades are right, not just being satisfied with the C's, but, you know, try to get your GPA as high as you can possibly get it, making sure that you take the SAT, ACT more than once, you know, because I believe you should at least take it twice, and then maybe you figure out, okay, I take the ACT better than I take the SAT, so let me take that one the second time. But as far as making sure they understand what's necessary, signing up for the eligibility center, as far as, you know, getting film together and sending that out, I do believe that falls on the coaches in some aspect. I know from my experience as a player from high school, knowing that I wanted to play college ball, I didn't have so much help from my coaching staff. So my mom and I and my dad took it upon ourselves to put together film and send it out. I used to go to, you know, various websites, athletics websites, and fill out their questionnaires, not knowing are they going to even see this. But I think it goes both ways. Like the parent has to do their due diligence as far as making sure, you know, they're on top of everything. I believe it's for sure the coach's responsibility to make sure they understand what it takes to make that happen. And then if you got connects, oh yeah, hey, I've got this player, I've got this guard or this post player who's able to do such and such. You know, just putting that bug in their ear for sure.
So Leah, from your perspective, were you looking for your coach to help with that, or were you like, hey, I'm gonna go get it? What from your perspective, what was that like for you?
I'm gonna go get it. But like I said, I agree that it's kind of a 50-50 thing. You got to do your part right along with your coach. But it ain't just not one person's responsibility. I don't really believe it should be that way.
Gotcha.
All right, Coach Fox. I'm speaking mainly toward the women's game. We always talk about moving the game forward here in Middle Georgia. What are some of the things that you think that you could do, other coaches could do, to move the game forward here in Middle Georgia women's basketball?
You know, referencing the conversation we had earlier about feeder programs, I think that's of prime significance, starting from rec ball through middle school up to high school, providing opportunities for young girls to get involved, not just with basketball, but, you know, different kinds of sports and activities so that they understand, you know, it is cool. You can still be cute and be active. So definitely working on those opportunities so that we can get our numbers up. I promise you, I hate to see programs that struggle to get girls to come out because they're out there. Girls that are capable are out there. It's just they hadn't been exposed to it or it hasn't been encouraged. So I think essentially we got to get our numbers up for one. Secondarily, we have to, at the high school level, look for opportunities to not just play people in town and play people in different areas, go up to Atlanta or further south, Georgia, and play in tournaments. My first year, I took the girls to Georgia Tech camp, and we came in contact with teams like McEachern. I want to say we played South Atlanta, or was it Southwest Atlanta Christian? Khalil, I don't know if you remember. We played one of those two teams, and we got our butts whooped. But it it was that experience for them seeing, you know, the game is played this way here, but also for, that Thanksgiving tournament we went to at Parkview, we played Brookwood, we played Norcross, we played Douglas, and they saw, okay, well, these girls are from Middle Georgia, they're competing like any of these other teams in Atlanta. So, going out and playing in different tournaments and not just being satisfied with playing in our area so that they can see, okay, they got some dogs down there too.
Coach, it came up on one of our shows earlier as we asked the question on how to push basketball forward in the Middle Georgia area. And it comes back around to the same thing, resources, right? So having an outlet for whether it's multiple sports, having access to a gym so these kids can actually start learning the right way. So we talk all the time on how can we get more resources, right? Mm-hmm. How can we get more resources? So with you being from Gwinnett County, area, did you see, was that a problem or was resources readily available for the kiddos?
I was definitely fortunate to be brought up in Gwinnett. So even at Parkview, we had 2 gyms. I know now Northside has 2 gyms. Before Tabor was torn down, they had 2 gyms. But a lot of schools don't have that luxury of having multiple gyms. Also in Gwinnett, you've got plenty of other gymnasiums that aren't, school system bound that trainers can go to, and they have a space to work with kids, and they're readily available. You got your pickup. Also training organizations. So I was just telling one of my athletes the other day that I participated in a speed and agility camp every summer, quality sports training. So we worked on footwork, ladder work, going over jumping hurdles and all these different things that when I came down to Middle Georgia, having coached at Jones County first, I saw, they didn't have these things. And so I encourage, those different types of, training, but obviously it's not so readily available down here.
Okay. And
Coach, and kind of to piggyback on that, I'm sorry, Charles.
No, go ahead, Coach.
Kind of to piggyback on that, the training and the physical training aspect, can you kind of speak to that, why that's important at playing at the varsity level?
Well, some athletes only have so much talent or God-given athletic ability. So I'm one of those types of players that I knew, because I can't jump so high or I'm just 5'7", I got to make up for that in different ways. So I made sure that I was conditioned. I tried to stay in shape as best as I could. Footwork and agility obviously can translate into, your offensive skill set, being able to, do your between the legs, behind the back, Euro, whatever it is. I just referenced that the other day with some of my girls. And then weightlifting, I don't think they understand how significant that plays into, your performance as well. I started weightlifting in 8th grade, and I've been doing it since, and more so now, obviously, for health reasons to stay fit, but you will get pushed around big time, especially varsity level, if you don't have that basic strength. And I think some girls just write it off as, okay, well, guys are supposed to lift weights, and it's not something that I'm supposed to do. But essentially, if you want to compete, you have to strength train for sure.
So, Khalil, let me ask you, I'm sorry, Khalil, as far as when you went to school, how did that weight game come into play?
Yeah, it was a big challenge. We lift weights a lot in college, and I was kind of like that mindset, like we don't need to eat weights like that. That really was my mindset in high school. But once I got to college and I went to doing all that other stuff, then yeah, I realized lift weights. It helped.
I tried to tell you, girl.
Yeah. So we do have a question from one of our viewers, Sherelle Pullen. I hope I said your name right. Do you believe athletes should specialize in one sport, such as basketball, or look to pursue multiple sports?
Multiple
sports.
Agreed. I believe that training for different sports allows you to use different muscles, so you're more prepared. I try to encourage as much as possible, be active, stay consistent with it, because that also means you're doing something productive as opposed to being lazy or doing something that might be detrimental to you. So just recently I had a couple girls ask me about volleyball. Volleyball is a perfect pair to basketball. It helps you work on your verticality. It helps you to be able to communicate, because in volleyball, if you really watch what they have to do, they have rotations. They have to make sure so-and-so is, in this spot, setters in this spot. Like, volleyball is the perfect pair to basketball. So if you're a girl and you're not doing a fall sport, you need to be playing volleyball. I wish I had. I ran track in high school. And so that's one of those things where, your friends are out there. It'll be a good time, but you also do get to compete, and it helps you to stay in shape in the spring in between, school season, AU season, whatever the case may be. But no, I absolutely encourage athletes to play multiple sports.
I'm gonna chime in. I'm gonna chime in on that real quick. I'm a firm believer of. I wouldn't so much say that you should specialize in one sport, but you need to know what your sport is. If you plan on going to college. I mean, I understand if a kid that plays football and basketball, if he's good in both, I'm all for it. At least by your sophomore year, junior year, you need to be decided. If you ain't as good in one sport as you are the other, if you're a football player and you know that's your ticket, that you're going to college, I think you should pursue that wholeheartedly. And if you have a chance to get on the basketball team, that's fine and dandy. But it's a little bit different. I think me personally, if you pursuing a basketball career, and that added football weight is just a little bit different when you coming in talking about playing basketball. And so to answer the question, I wouldn't say yes, specialize in one sport, but if you're good at both, then I suggest you play both. But you're only gonna get a scholarship. Really, you're gonna be able to play one in college. I've seen it too many times. People, tell these kids, "Oh yeah, you're great in both, and we're gonna offer you a dual scholarship." Well, when they get to that school, guess what happens? They ain't playing but one. So I mean, I wouldn't say. I'll say yeah and no. So just know your sport, or what you're trying to go to college and achieve.
Yeah, I agree. They gotta understand what's beneficial to them too.
Right.
Yeah. Now I have heard of some. I think even my son had mentioned. He said, "Yeah, when I get to about my junior year, maybe I'll play football." I say, "Boy, not here in Georgia, you won't." If you're gonna play now. So what is your, especially with football? It's just it's nothing you can just really say, "Hey, I'm gonna get up and go do." Now there's some kids who can, but what is your thought? What are your thoughts on that? Kids who just kind of, all right, now I'm gonna decide to play a sport their senior year. So,
well, aside from having that experience, for the most part, you're not just going to jump right in and be able to perform like the other kids who have been, consistent with being in that sport. And that's what I tell even girls who come out in ninth grade year, want to skip 10th grade and then come back as a junior. I try my very best not to put 11th graders on JV, because I feel like that takes away from opportunities that the young girls could have to get more experience and reps. So I let them know ahead of time, if you're a junior in my program, I'm looking for you to contribute to varsity. Now, in some cases I have, because I feel like, okay, well, this girl's got some potential. Let me get her some reps on JV that I know she's not going to get on varsity. But as far as just jumping in or taking a year off, it's a lot harder to come back from not having that experience and not having trained. And even on the mental side of it, you want to be able to build and foster those relationships with players. If you're going out as a 11th grader and this coach hasn't seen you before, they're wondering, well, like, who are you? Like, what type of player are you? What are you going to contribute to my program that this person who I know and have been with for several years, I know they can do? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the other aspect of it.
Kalia, so were you a multi-sport player?
In middle school, but after my 8th grade year, I only started basketball.
So you specialize?
That mean play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You specialize basketball. Hey, and look where you are today.
Yeah. So I showed right.
All right. Pick the right path.
Hey, so I want to go back real quick to this weight room conversation you all had. How did that go? How was that conversation back and forth?
So how I was lifting weights when I got to college.
No. When Coach Fox was like, you need to get in the weight room.
Oh, she never really had conversations. She just really didn't watch us well. So most of the time we'll just skip reps, but that's what I'm saying.
See? Hey, I figured out quick. I gotta watch them, because if I don't, they're not gonna do what they're supposed to do.
She started watching us after a while, but at first we were just skipping the reps. But that ain't smart.
Right, but then when you got to college, you was like, man.
Yeah, they actually sit down and watch. Right.
Yeah, they staff a little bigger than coaches.
Yeah, they really are. So
Well, that weight room, I think, paid off, and what Coach Fox instilled in you has paid off so far with you, being the freshman of the year. That's a big honor right there now.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big blessing for me.
Yeah.
So, Khalil, let me ask you this: what part of your game do you need to improve on?
Outside shots. That's probably like threes, mid range, all that. Mostly threes.
How much quicker is the game?
In college,
Yes.
it's very, very, very quick. Very quick. Very. I thought I liked the fast tempo, but then I got to college, there was a whole nother fast tempo. So that I had to adjust to that part too.
Right. So coming into that adjustment, what's that conditioning like? Give us kind of walk us through a day.
Okay.
That you got practice. So from the time you get up to the time you go to sleep.
And I was getting up about 5:30 because we had to meet at the gym at 6 because we had weights, aerobics teacher. We had to do yoga, all that. Then I had classes at 8. Then you right back on the court, practice like 1:45, no later than 2 o'clock. You're going to practice all that night, go back to the room on time. All thing you can do is homework and eat and go to bed. Wake up and same thing all day, every day.
So were you aware of that type of schedule before you got to college?
I knew it'd be a challenge. I can't say it's undoable. I just had to start pushing myself. I expected it to be as easy as high school. So that's when a lot of challenges came. So I had to just accept what I had to do right then, and that's how I really made it through college.
I think that's a great message for the ones coming behind you, right? To think, okay, I just want to play and go to college, but don't understand how much work it actually takes.
Yeah,
and everything
it takes a lot of work and motivation. because you have different things going on besides sports. You got classes. It was a challenge, but you make it through. Once you tell yourself you're gonna make it through, you're gonna get through it.
Right.
Gotta
So
fight.
to get to that level, I know you had to kind of sacrifice some things at the high school level, as far as social life, right? And even I'm assuming in college as well, you can't be at every party, you can't do all
Yeah,
of these things. So you really have to be disciplined into your craft, huh?
that's the biggest thing. You have to discipline yourself. You ain't got nobody, mom and dad, the coaches. They don't wake you up in the morning. You miss it. That's on you. So the biggest thing was discipline. I had to learn how to discipline myself.
So I think we asked you this already, but is there any other message you want to give to the ones coming behind you?
Nah, just compete for whatever you want in life. Period. Just compete.
Right.
Hey, Khalil, speak on the academic part. And I know you were real good in the classroom as well. Speak to the young generation about academics, why it's important to get those academics to get where you are today.
Yeah, academics is very, very important, especially in college. I know some people be like, it's some teacher that's let you do this because you're an athlete. No. You got to sit down. You got to know how to not procrastinate and do everything. Really, you got to learn how to balance your life out. Basketball already got a big part, but somewhere you got to get your studying in. You got to get your tutoring and all that. So that's why I say everything really is it's about discipline. Academics is important though. A lot of people don't take it serious. That's why you're not gonna get to college. Not taking school serious. I don't care what your talent look like. They not. Academic matter more than anything in college.
Yeah.
So, Coach Fox, let me ask you a question, and we're going to get ready to wrap. But I think I asked all our coaches that come on this question. When you have kids that's getting college interest, what type of conversations or questions are those college coaches asking you as far as their character and their work ethic, and if this is someone that they should invest their time in to try to bring to their school?
Yeah, they asked all of that because essentially they're trying to figure out whether or not they're going to fit in their program, if they're going to, like I said before, buy in and really contribute. So I've had questions like, well, how do they handle tough situations in games? Like how do they react to, making mistakes, all the way to how do they interact with their teammates? Are they supportive? Are they encouraging? All of that is stuff that they've asked me for, aside from just their abilities and how they perform.
Right. So kind of the bigger picture, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're gonna get ready to wrap. Coach Fox, do you have anything you want to plug while we're on here, or anything you want to get out to the people watching, all the upcoming Lady Eagles? I was gonna call you the Eaglettes, but the Lady Eagles.
I just want to say that I'm excited. I appreciate y'all for having me, and I'm getting to where Warner Robins feels more like home, and so I really do appreciate y'all having me on, and I'm just excited to continue with Northside girls basketball.
Khalil, you got any parting shots?
I do want to say thank y'all for having me, and to all my lady hoopers, just compete. Period.
Hey, so we're excited, and like I said, extremely happy that we could have had y'all on the show to be able to talk basketball as far as what the elevation of the women's game is coming to. Coach Fox, much success, continued success. And I always put this plug out. So we're taking the show on the road, so we're gonna need some tickets one day. All right, so you leave some tickets at the will call. We'll pick them up. They may be to that Warner Robins game. So however you need to get us in, you handle that.
Y'all let me know. I got you.
I appreciate it. Coach Tat, you got anything?
No, I just thank both of you for being on, man. It was a pleasure having y'all. And Khalil, great message to the young ladies, man. It's a blessing to have somebody like you to speak to the young ladies and for them to, I'm sure they'll take heed of what you're saying academically and compete and how you know, how it changed when you got to college and stuff like that. I mean, it's a blessing that you could enlighten them on, you know, such stuff like that, man. And Coach Fox, again, thank you, Coach, for being on, and we really appreciate it. And like I say, man, I mean, moving forward, we're trying to move this thing forward.
Coach Charles.
Makes sense.
No, I'd like to thank each of you ladies for coming on the show. If there's as we try to have discussion and figure out ways to push basketball forward, men and women basketball forward in the Middle Georgia area, whether it's with the resources, whether it's with you know, training, whatever we can do to get that message out there, definitely let us know. And we'd love to have each of you back on the show, and we can continue those conversations. So thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Coach Fox, we're going to go ahead and kind of pencil you in we're going to have a coaches roundtable for women's basketball coming up. So we'll go ahead and, while we're on the air, go ahead and say you'll be here. So we got you locked in.
All right. Sounds good to me.
But again, we appreciate you. To the viewers, we appreciate you watching, asking questions, being interactive with us. Like we always say, if you got anything that you want us to kind of hit on or get information on, hit us up on our social media platforms. As well, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, all the shows are on our Warner Robins All-Stars YouTube page. Go out there, check them out. Great information for players, coaches, and parents. We got a big show coming up Sunday. Coach Tat, you want to talk on that?
Yeah, we got Ty Young from Hoop Scene. A lot of y'all not familiar with Hoop Scene. Hoop Scene is a big circuit, man, up in Atlanta that hosts some of the top players in the country. They do a great job of scheduling the tournaments, having the college coaches there. And one of the main guys that gets it done with Hoop Scene is Ty Young. So he will be with us on Sunday, along with Rashawn Tomlin. Rashawn Tomlin is an up-and-coming senior at Warner Robins High, whose recruiting is picking up. So, you know, we'll get with them both, man, and have a good show on Sunday.
And Coach Charles, that's episode what?
Episode 11. So we just completed episode 10 today. So congrats off the dribble.
So again, thank y'all for tuning in. Hit us up on our social media platforms if you want to get at us. Other than that, peace.